This video is brought to you in partnership with the AA. For a great deal on AA car insurance, go to the AA.ie or call 01 674 0443.
The Volkswagen ID4 hasn't just been a massive seller in Ireland. It has. It's also Europe's best-selling EV. It's getting world car accolades left, right and centre. It's been a massive success. And you can get one in the smallest battery range after grants, as long as they exist, for €36,000. Now this one, you need to add another 20 onto that. That's right, 20. Because it's a first edition, it's like a Pro kind of Max kind of upgraded seats, upgraded alloys, faster charging, upgraded IQ matrix headlights, all that good stuff. A lot of that stuff that you don't actually need, some of the extras anyway, like the faster charging. If you don't do lots of driving and do motorways all day long, you don't need that. This version has a glass roof. It just looks like a black roof on the outside. It's heavily tinted, but you do get a roof blind in it, and that contrasts with this white colour. I'm not sure of the white because down here you get plastic with some air intakes. That's kind of like an off grey colour. So you might be someone who prefers dark colours in the ID4, or you're really brave and you're going to go for the lovely gold that Volkswagen do, although it's not actually called gold, it's some sort of fancy yellow. This version has auto folding mirrors. They're black as well to contrast against the paint. Another thing that again will show up in brighter colours are the skirts down here. They do, however, keep your trousers clean. The door handles don't actually move. There's like a catch behind the back. You can operate a child lock function from the driver's control, and that makes sure that the little rascals can't open these, of course. And you get a flat floor in there, which makes just being that middle passenger a bit easier. Another thing that isn't necessarily needed, but it's nice to have, is the auto opening and closing boot. And the boot's generous. It's almost 550 litres, which means getting something like a child's bike in on its side is very, very simple, and the shopping and all the usual stuff that family life entails. There's a 12-volt charger, and down here you'll also get space to store cables, and further on again there's even more storage space down here for tools and a towing eye. So all in all, a good, honest as the day is long boot in the back of the ID4. Like the very similar Skoda Enyaq, rear space and legroom is really generous, and if you'd like to check out my review of the Enyaq, you can just click on the link there or wait till the end of the video. And this has its own little tricks, like the way the Enyaq has picnic tables here and blinds, and this car is very similarly matched in price as the Enyaq I reviewed. So you've got storage here for a mobile phone. It just pops in there. I was going to say you could kind of tuck it out and actually have it for watching something on the back of the headrest, which would be handy. Further storage down here, flat floor because it's an EV. Doesn't always mean you're going to get a flat floor, but generally in an EV you will. Your own individual climate in here with 2 USB-C chargers, and there's a decent armrest with access to the rear of the boot. And the headspace is absolutely massive, even though there's a glass roof that comes right the way back. And if you're thinking about it and you're not sure, I'd go for it. If it's just too expensive, then it's an easier decision to make. But headroom is really generous. And the same with knees, like those seats are fairly far back and you really have tons of space. So it's really going to be a personal preference over whether you get this or the Enyaq if you're kind of down to choosing between the two. There's one of the models that has the advantage in one way and another that has an advantage in another way. And having spent some time with both of them, I'll tell you what that is in a few minutes' time. These upgraded seats are ergo seats, so they've got adjustable lumbar support in them and you can mess with them electrically. 2 armrests that are individual, like a camper van style. Your cup holders are down here. You can adjust and take this out if you want to use more space in there. Loads of storage down here also, including 2 USB-C charging ports. The steering wheel is what you're getting in modern Volkswagens now. Someone replied to a tweet I had about the car and said it's the happiest looking steering wheel they've ever seen, especially here. And then you can't unsee it. This screen is about similar size as the ENIAC. It doesn't give you a huge amount of information. You're more relying on this screen for that. This, however, gets very, very hot to the touch over a short enough space of time. Certainly a normal car journey of, half an hour. And I just wonder will that burn out over time, because it really does get very, very hot. The interior qualities, like, it's well covered. I suppose the ENIAC, and again, it's a fair comparison in this car because it is such a well-spec'd one. The interior is just a little bit better in the ENIAC. But then on the outside, I think this is perhaps the better looking car outside, front and back. I'd love to take the interior of the ENIAC and put it into the ID4. And then I think it'd be a fair comparison. But if that's important to you, you're going to have a look at the Skoda at least. The other thing as well, you're probably going to get your hands on an ID4 easier. So there's shortcut buttons to your climate, your menu, your assist modes. And, you can set up your climate very, very easily. You can do the double tap for the heated seats. Double tap, very handy. When I reviewed a first look at the ID4 in February, it was 2 degrees. The range here was 325 at full. I collected this car when it was about 20 degrees earlier on in the week, and we were talking about 350 on the range, but it's been driven by so many different people. That's going to affect it. I don't think the range calculator in EVs are the same as petrol and diesel cars. They just change so much compared to, here's a load of fuel in the tank. As you use it in this way, this is what it's going to be. Because that ain't going down as quickly as I'm putting the miles in, if you get me. You can get faster charging in ID4s. 100 kilowatt charging is available. The standard is 50. So if you're doing home charging, lots of it, work charging, lots of it, and you never really drive from Dublin to Donegal, then you don't need the faster charging. Another huge bonus of electric vehicle driving is they're nippy. So there's a gap in the traffic, you'll get into it that you probably wouldn't have been able to get into in a normal fossil fueled car. And that nippiness is generated by, in this case, a 204 brake horsepower engine. It's rear wheel drive, so all the power goes to the back of the car. Now, I'm sorry if I'm over explaining it for those of you that are obviously EV fans. The way I want to kind of present this style of video is to people who are watching this who may have never had an electric car before, but now they're really curious and they're like, would it work for me? So honestly, I can look at you through the lens and say, on a really cold day at a full charge in the 77 kilowatt hour battery anyway, you might get 300-ish kilometers. On a really warm summer's day, you could get 500, up to 500. Another question I was asked today, again, somebody who's just curious about an EV, said, I heard that they'll only do 90 kilometers an hour. That's the top range of speed. It's not. Generally, a lot of electric vehicles, they will probably max out at 150 kilometers an hour. The other thing to consider as well, it's not always the case. There's still enough of a gap between an electric version of a car that exists that you can also get in the petrol form. There is no petrol or diesel equivalent of this. It's just a ground up electric vehicle. But you do have the Volkswagen Tiguan, and if you spec one of them up to what this car has, there's really very little in the difference. So this is a particularly good example of how it's not quite on a par yet, but it's getting there. So if you are someone that could live with a Tiguan or has lived with a Tiguan, there is absolutely no reason, unless you're genuinely driving from Dublin to Donegal and commuting every single day, that the ID4 wouldn't work for you. Another car you may be considering is the Audi E-Tron Q4, built on this same platform of car. It obviously comes with an Audi badge and has a slightly nicer interior. It's worth having a look for. Behind the wheel of it, it's really relaxing to drive because it's so smooth and there's no engine noise, and you can just waft along and float along on your journey, and it's a comfortable way of getting around. Anyone I've brought for a spin in an electric vehicle has remarked in the same way. The steering is nice and light. I mean, it is a heavy car. You're talking, it's a 2-ton bus. When you're hammering it into a bend, you will see the transfer of weight a little bit, and it doesn't quite handle like, a Golf. But it handles pretty much like a crossover. Having experienced the ID4, the ENIAC, the ID3 for a long enough term review, anyone who comes out with electric cars aren't there yet, it's a bit like somebody telling you that the CD was never going to catch on. We're now at a point in EVs where that doesn't really stack up anymore. And that says more about the person being negative about it than the actual experience. I've no doubt you're going to come across a public charger here and there that won't work, but again, you'll get a grant for a charger. The charger will cost you €600 then to get in, and you'll just plug your car in every night and charge it as you need it. I mean, I'm now heading into a weekend. As I said, I've done the 200 kilometers. I probably don't need to charge this car at all. So if you're anything like me and you're doing sort of 400 kilometers, tipping around on the usual school run stuff, driving to work, going to the shops, all that kind of stuff, you could be going absolutely weekly with just one charge. And then there's places like Tesco and Lidl who are now starting to do charging, so you can actually even charge at the moment for free while you do the shopping. So that's pretty handy. The main drawback in a lot of these high quality, decent sized EVs, it just keeps coming back to the price. And we have to get to a point where, yes, the grants are there, you can assume they won't be there forever. So something's going to have to give. Either manufacturers need to make them a bit cheaper, the production of batteries needs to get cheaper, or the level of EVs that are required in the roads in Ireland by 2030, it just won't happen. You've got to make them affordable. They're already great, especially cars like this, so fit for the job, but the price is still going to be a prohibitive factor for a lot of people. Here's one for you. Voice control, really easy to use. Find me a charger, please.
Search for charging station nearby. Please select a POI from the list.
You tap one and the sat nav will bring you there.
43 kilowatt CS.
Now, something I've noticed about the nav is it's picking up things like TGI Fridays in places that I just know are not there. So I'm curious to see, is that a true 43 kilowatt charger? There's only one way to find out, and we're off there. I wonder, is this a 43 kilowatt charger? We'll find it in a second. So easy to do. Open your boot. You just take out your charging cables. Close that down. Open the port on the side. Same with your charger, your public charger. And then all you literally do is show card. And I think we are good. Yes, it started. There you go. We're on. We're charging. Now, it's absolutely worth pointing out that Ionity, for example, which is really fast charging, that's where you'll get to do your 100 kilowatt if your car has spec'd it. It's 33 cents thereabouts per kilowatt hour. So multiply that by 77. If you were charging from zero, you get an idea of the cost. This is kind of a solution if you were getting a dart into town for this speed of charging, or as I mentioned earlier on, if you're doing your shopping. But the best way to charge your car is still going to be at home. It's going to be the most convenient and it's going to be the cheapest. Yes, it will take a bit longer, but you'll be inside, living your life, playing PlayStation, cooking dinner, having a shower, all those things that you'll be doing when you're not actually worrying about if the car is charging. It will just be there ready to go on that once a week charge or whatever you need. Point is, those solutions like this are so easy, so quick, and since they've introduced charging, because these chargers were free for quite a number of years, it's a lot easier to find a space. The ID4, if you're looking for a family electric vehicle, you've got to shortlist it. There's a reason it's getting so many awards, and is a very easy car to live with, an easy car to get around it in terms of range, tons of space. Yes, the Audi Q4 E-Tron is going to be in this space soon as well. So in one sense you could say it's going to be a crowded market, the other sense you can say there's loads of options to choose from. They're all the same car underneath, it just depends which individual car and spec and interior and exterior you actually like. So check it out for yourself. I would have no hesitation recommending this car to someone who wants to go electric and has a family. Thank you very much for watching.